What's up, you guys? Anthony here. Welcome back to another video. Got a quick video for you guys today. In this video, I want to show you how to use avatars to be able to scale your branded dropshipping business to its first $100,000 month. So this video is for anyone who is currently struggling to scale to at least $1,000 a day and beyond, or you're struggling to, maybe you're at $1,000 a day and it's really inconsistent. One day you're doing 3K a day, the next day you're doing a 0.5 return on ad spend, and you're really regretting pre-ordering that Lambo. So this video is for you because avatars are the way to get more consistency in your business and the way that you can hit your first six-figure month. So without wasting time, let's go ahead and jump straight into the video. And really quick before we dive in, shout out to all of our recent wins inside of God Tier Ecom. Sean just did his first $84,000 month. Raymond just hit 1.5K in 48 hours after literally not even having a store for a lot of complicated reasons, was able to come back and get that epic win. Mike got his first sale ever within 24 hours of buying God Tier Ecom. Janie, 7K a day. Brandon, 10K a day, or 9.3 technically. Selwyn, 1K a day. Enos hit 450K last month. So shout out to the community members. And let's dive in. All right. So what is an avatar? If you've been in or around dropshipping for long enough, you've probably heard the term avatar, buyer persona, target customer, target demographic. You've heard those terms loosely thrown around. And I just want to say right off the bat, when I say avatar, I'm using that to mean the same thing as all those other terms. So avatar equals buyer persona equals target demo equals target market. They're all the same shit. Essentially what an avatar is and what those terms refer to is a detailed profile of your ideal customer that combines their desires, experiences, emotions, awareness, beliefs, and behaviors to create a clear picture of who you're selling to and why they'll buy. So that sounds like a lot of words, and it sounds like, oh shit, there's so many things to an avatar. Don't worry, we're going to break it down, and it's a lot simpler than maybe that seems. One thing I want to clarify is an avatar has nothing to do with demographics. So you might see the traditional definition of an avatar, or if you've ever looked up avatar worksheets or create a customer avatar in Google, you've probably seen things like Susan, or what is it, like Sappy Susan or Snappy Susan, Sassy Susan, who's 45, marketing director, or works at like a big tech company, makes $80,000 a year, is married, has 2 children, has a cat. All of that information is demographic information, so age, gender, and income, and those come last, if at all. In fact, as I'm creating avatars, I'm not even really thinking about demographics because they just have no relevance to the ads that we'll create. When we're creating ads, it's all about tapping into desires, experiences, emotions, awareness levels, beliefs, and behaviors. When I'm creating an ad, unless I'm selling health insurance or some type of offer for senior citizens, like senior housing, then I'm not really thinking about age. So why should we factor that into our avatars? And that's why I don't really factor that in up until I get a clear understanding of these things here. So the way I describe an avatar, it's the psychological and situational profile, because it's what they think, what they believe, but it's also how they behave, what they've experienced, and what's currently happening in their life of the person most likely to buy from you. So I really want to use this meme to contrast kind of the noob from the Chad. And here on the left, we have the noob, very simply. This guy is targeting women 65 plus and then complains people won't buy. He thinks, oh, I don't know what's wrong. Why is my ads not converting? And I see this all the time in the community. People say, oh, why are my ads not converting? And then I ask them who they're targeting, and they say women 65 plus. So I just want to say right off the bat, women 65 plus is not an avatar. If you are currently, as I say that question, if right now you're targeting women 65 plus or men 45 to 65, you don't have an avatar, and that's the reason why your ads aren't scaling, because you have no idea who you're talking to. If you contrast that with the Chad, okay, targets desires, experiences, and belief patterns, notice there's nothing here about age or gender or income level or how many kids they have. It's all about the psychological and situational makeup of the person. Doesn't give a fuck about age. Pause. But seriously, he doesn't give a fuck about age because he knows that in the context of an avatar that would be actually usable for a direct response marketer writing copy, writing landing pages, age doesn't really, that's like the last thing, okay? So why is this so important to build an avatar, right? The reason why and why this is so powerful is because people buy when they feel understood. And we make people feel understood by building relatability. And what does relatability mean? Being relatable means to be someone or something that others can emotionally connect with, understand, and sympathize with due to similarities in experiences, feelings, or perspectives. So it's, in other words, a way for us to basically trust each other by nature of the fact that we've gone through similar things. So for example, when I say, hey, are you a dropshipper who is so frustrated spending hours of your day in CapCut, downloading ripped videos from TikTok and throwing them into your ad account to get $100 CPMs? You're more likely to listen to me than the guy that says, hey, I got the new best 1K a day dropshipping strategy. Why? Because I understand your experience and we connect based on the fact that we have this shared experience. So you're more likely to listen to what I have to say and you're more likely to trust me. And it's the same thing with your marketing for your dropshipping business. And 98% of all purchase decisions are driven emotionally. So the more we can connect with people emotionally, the more likely they are to buy, even if, that's a key point here, especially because you guys are, and all of us really, are selling products that seldom are introducing this brand new mechanism to the market or introducing or coming into the market as the best solution. Oftentimes we're selling products that can be found for 1/3 the price on Amazon. So the more that you can build this emotional connection, the more likely they are to buy, even if your product is not clearly better than the competition, or even if it's not clearly the best product on the market. People buy when they feel understood. And the way that we make them feel understood is by building that relatability through targeting and being able to empathize with their desires, experiences, emotions, behaviors. So let's get into now the actual makeup of an avatar. Let me see if I can find this. All right. So this is my stupid, simple avatar matrix. So if I'm creating an avatar, I am going to be building off of these things in sequential order. Okay. So I call this the avatar matrix. And really quick, shout out to the guys over at Evolve Ecom, because I learned a lot from the way they conceptualize avatars to put my own spin on things and to be able to come up with a matrix that sort of builds off of all the stuff that I've learned from them, as well as all the stuff that I've learned running ads for the last 5 to 6 years, spending over $50 million in Facebook ads, working at agencies. This is like the amalgamation of all that information here. So when we're creating an avatar, when we're thinking about who we want to target, because remember, avatar is who, okay? Dude, I cannot italicize this. All right. So avatar matrix, this is defining who we're targeting, okay? So if you've read Breakthrough Advertising, the first question you have to answer when you are presented with the question of who am I targeting is you start with desire, okay? Desire is the force, the overwhelming urge to buy that drives all purchase decisions, desire. So let's take the example of a cat water fountain. A desire for a cat water fountain could be something like, I want my cat to be healthy. I want to protect my cat from getting kidney disease. Let me show you a couple examples of desires, okay? Let me go into, so this is a document that I put together with Gemini and ChatGPT. But here is a super simple desire. I want my cat to be healthy. I want to prevent UTIs. I want to prevent kidney disease. These are, in other words, all the things that people want to get or experience by using the product. Okay? So let's take the super simple example of I want my cat to be healthy. Okay? Now, when somebody has a desire, that desire typically comes from or is informed by an experience that somebody has. Something happens to them, or they go through something, and that causes them to have this desire. So it's interesting because you kind of have to start with the desire first, and then you ask, okay, well, why does somebody have that desire? Okay, they have that desire typically because they have an experience. They go through something, something happens to them, a life event. Okay, so somebody has that desire, then typically they'll have some type of experience where that desire stems from. Sometimes they have an experience and then that creates the desire. I think most people, the interesting thing though is like sometimes the desire is already there and then an experience sort of activates it and makes it something that somebody wants to take action on. So I'm pretty sure most people who have a cat want their cat to be healthy unless they're psychotic. So then in that case, somebody would have this desire, but maybe it's not conscious, right? Maybe they're unaware. So, and we'll get into that as we kind of get into awareness levels. So anyways, we have a desire. So my avatar so far is people who want their cat to be healthy, who have had the experience of their vet telling them their cat is dehydrated. So already I have a very clear picture of who I'm targeting, much clearer than, oh, cat owners who are 65 plus. None of that bullshit. Okay. So from the desire then, we have the experience. And then from the experience, that experience creates an emotion. So how does somebody feel once they've gone through this experience? Okay. I'm scared my cat is going to die. That's the emotion that drives or that is elicited when somebody feels this experience or goes through this experience. So now we're targeting people who want their cat to be healthy, who have been told by the vet their cat is dehydrated, and they're scared their cat is going to die. Notice how I just with those three things alone, it is very clear who I am targeting. And it's very clear what I should be saying in my ads already, just based on nailing down those three things. Okay, so we have a desire, we have an experience, we have an emotion. Then we're going to get into awareness level. And if you guys have read Breakthrough Advertising, then you know the first step, if you want to sell a product, is to understand what is the desire that your product fulfills. And then the second step is to understand how aware is your customer or ideal customer of your product and their problem. Now, I already have prompts and I have AI prompts to do all of this, but let's say for the sake of example, you are going to, and actually, let me back up. Wait. So really quick, inside of God2Ecom, we basically have deep research prompts to be able to figure out what is the market awareness breakdown for a particular product and for a particular market. So in other words, we can see where does the majority of the market, if we take the total addressable market for a product, and let's say it's 100 million people, what percentage of those people are unaware, problem aware, solution aware, product / most aware? So in the case of the cat water fountain, 45 to 50%, or the overwhelming majority of people, are solution aware. In other words, they know about the problem of dehydration. They know that solutions exist. They might even be aware that specific categories of solutions exist. And they've either tried them or they've heard about them. So in the case, basically I would use this to inform what awareness level I would target for this avatar. So in the case of us targeting a solution aware avatar, this would be somebody who knows about adding water to their cat's foods or using water bowls. So this is somebody who's solution aware. They know about the problem. So they've been told that their cat is dehydrated. They're scared their cat is going to die. And they know that they can add water to their cat's food or use a water bowl to keep their cat hydrated. Okay? So now we have a desire, experience, emotion, and awareness level. The next part of this is to understand what beliefs does this person have as a result of these desires, or of this desire, experience, emotion, and their awareness about our product and their problem. Now, the reason why it's important to understand beliefs is that beliefs are basically the way in which people perceive the world to be true, or basically the perception of the world that dictates reality, or that person's reality, versus delusion, I guess. So the belief is basically, again, how people perceive or how they interpret these things and what truth or what reality means to them as a result. So I'm kind of struggling to say off the top of my head what a belief is, but hopefully that makes sense. And so if somebody is going through this desire, experience, emotion, and awareness level, they might have the belief that adding water to their cat's food is enough, or that adding water to their cat's food is enough to keep them healthy. Right? We'll connect it back to the initial desire. Now, the reason why this is important is because in order to actually make someone receptive to our copy and to be sold by our copy and to be persuaded that they need our product, we can't just get into claiming that our product is the best or claiming that the person needs this product. We need to start our copy with beliefs that our audience holds to be true. And then we need to logically move them with increasingly new ideas, by introducing increasingly new ideas, to then believe that our product is the solution. So we need to change this existing belief. We can't get somebody to buy until we crack this belief. Because look at it. If I'm selling a cat water fountain to somebody who wants their cat to be healthy, whose vet said their cat is dehydrated, who's scared their cat is going to die, who knows about adding water to their cat's food, and believes that adding water to their cat's food is enough to keep them healthy, why would they buy? Why would they buy my fountain? They already believe that adding water to their cat's food is enough. Or in the case of another product, they already believe certain things about it that would make them totally out of the market for buying the product. And so if we don't acknowledge these beliefs, if we don't change these beliefs in our copy, in your ads, but for the purposes of people who watch my channel, in your long form copy, then you're never going to convince them to buy. And so many people skip out on this belief section, and that's why they can get everything else right. And because they're not addressing these existing beliefs, again, a belief, if you believe something, that means you hold it to be true. So if you hold the fact that I can add water to my cat's food and that's enough to keep them healthy to be true, then why would you buy my fountain? Which is why we need to understand what these existing beliefs are in order to know how or what beliefs we actually need to change and address in our copy to get somebody to buy. Okay, so once you have a belief, once there's something that you perceive in the world to be true, that is going to dictate how you act in the world. So, for example, if I believe that working hard will lead me to success, then I'm going to work hard. If I believe that walking 10,000 steps a day is going to allow me to lose weight, then I'm going to walk 10,000 steps a day. So the belief creates the action, or in other words, the behavior. So then we break it down. What are the behaviors that this person is doing? Adding water to their cat's food, leaving water bowls. We might even say leaving the faucet running, right? What are some other ones? Feeding all wet diet, right? So these beliefs, and for the purposes of keeping it simple, we're only going to tackle one. One belief can lead to a whole slew of behaviors, right? So for example, like again in the dropshipping example, if I believe, let's say, creating video ads will make me money dropshipping, then what are the behaviors that I'm gonna do, right? I'm gonna rip TikToks. I'm going to download callow data videos. If I could spell, I'm going to rip my competitors' ads, right? So the belief creates the behavior. Hopefully you can see that. Okay. So now we have a very clear picture of who we're targeting. If we just string all these together, you will see the magic and specificity and clarity of our avatar. So who are you targeting? I am targeting people who want their cat to be healthy, whose vet has already told them their cat is dehydrated. They're scared their cat is going to die. They know about adding water to their cat's food using water bowls. They believe that adding water to their cat's food is enough to keep them healthy. And they add water to their cat's food and leave water bowls sitting around the house. Look how clear it is we're targeting. You know exactly who I'm targeting. You know what they want. You know what experiences they've been through. You know how they feel about it. You know how much they know about our product and their problem. You know their existing beliefs. And you know what they're doing on a day-to-day basis as a result of all of this. So now when I go to write my ads, this is the person who I'm talking to. And you're probably wondering, okay, that sounds great in theory, but how do you actually know that this is the correct desire? How do you know that this is the correct experience? How do you know this is the correct emotion? How do you know this is the correct awareness, beliefs, behaviors, right? How do you know all this? Because like obviously for the purposes of this video, I just wrote them down and made them up, okay? I'm gonna be releasing future videos on this because I'm still working on the prompt for this, but I have started to create my next round, I guess, my next series of prompts that will allow people to create avatars and basically to do the research. And the short answer to your question is research by going on forums, Amazon reviews, YouTube comments, basically scouring the internet for looking for the experiences people are having, emotions they're feeling, their awareness level, their beliefs, their behaviors, and then writing them down. But you can actually do this with AI, and I'll show you. So basically, this is the first prompt that I'm kind of working through. I have broken it down for desires specifically, and I'm not going to release this yet. If you guys want early access, if you guys want early access, I don't know if it'll even be worth it because it's not even ready. Comment the word prompt in the comments below. and I'll try and reach out to you guys. But honestly, probably just wait a couple more days until it's ready, unless you really want it, because the output is still not super consistent. But basically, creating prompts for each of these to use AI to find out all this information for you, and then you can also read the information manually yourself. So take desires, for example. For this table, right, we start with figuring out what are the surface desires that people have. So surface desires, what do people want to get by using the product? This is what they tell their friends, their family. It's, again, on the surface. So I want to prevent my cat from getting kidney disease. I want to prevent my cat from getting UTIs. Okay. Then we figure out what is the emotional desire that's driving people to want that surface desire. So if we go to our emotional desires, and as you can see, these are all emotion-based. So fear, happiness, anger. There's like 6 core emotions. So I'm scared my cat will suffer or to get sick and die. And as we can see, this drives, or I can see here clearly which surface desires this drives. I'm frustrated by products that fail or get moldy. I can see which surface desires this drives. I feel guilty my cat is sick. I can see which surface desires this drives. So this output here is super valuable because it allows you to see that insight, and also gives you specific evidence in the research by quoting people from Reddit and YouTube comments, how they talk about this in their own words. So I feel guilty I didn't act sooner. And then here's a quote: I do regret I did not know when we got her 13 years ago how important water is. I should have noticed something was wrong, right? Okay, so I'm working on these prompts, but hopefully you guys can see how this avatar matrix is superior to the standard, oh, I'm targeting women 18 to 65 plus, right? This is something that's actionable, and now you know who you're targeting from a psychological and situational basis, which is going to allow you to create much more relatable ads and relatable content, which is going to drive that trust, make people feel understood, and make them significantly more likely to buy. Because when you know down to the specific desires, experiences, emotions, awareness, beliefs, and behaviors that you're targeting, you know exactly what to say in the ad creative. Like, the ad will literally write itself. The long copy will literally write itself. Okay, so guys, that is going to do it for this video. That is how I create avatars in November of 2025. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments below, and also drop a comment on what kinds of content you guys want to see next. If there's anything you're struggling with, any issues you're going through, any questions you have, let me know. I wanted to make a video on this because I think it's a really important topic, and I find that focusing on the principles and the messaging 9 times out of 10 is going to do way more for you than focusing on ad formats and ad account setups. So let me know in the comments below what you want to see next. Otherwise, hope you guys enjoyed the content as always, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.